Are we? Can you hear me? Waiting for a few minutes. Waiting. Waiting. Just waiting. Actually, waiting for the host. I mean, not the host, waiting for the guest, Paul Lamar Hunter, to sign on technology.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, yes,
Can you hear me, Paul?
yes,
Oh
yes, I
goodness.
can.
Well, good. So actually, we're live right now, so you came in just in time.
All right.
Well. Let's just get started. Welcome to the Leading Ladies Live podcast, where we empower women worldwide and sometimes gentlemen. Provoking content and interview. I'm your host, Renee L. Page. Our special guest today is leading gentleman Lamar Hunter. Hey, Paul.
Hey, thank you for having me on as a guest, and I am excited to share a positive story tonight to give people hope all around the world.
Yes. So let me just start. Can I brag about you, Paul? Let me just start.
Yes.
Paul Lamar Hunter is a published author and a motivational speaker. Paul was born the 19th of 21 children and was the first in his family to earn a college degree. Paul is considered the diplomat of education. Further, Paul has written an autobiography called No Love, No Charity, The Success of the 19th Child, and has earned the attention of renowned publications like Ebony Magazine, Black Enterprise Magazine, Essay Express News, Radar Online, as well as made several guest television appearances. The Truth, Face the Truth TV, and hosted by Vivica A Fox, Living in Things Utah, The Morning Blender, Tom Joyner, and Fox and Friends. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, thanks. I really appreciate for coming on your show.
Yes, just excited to have you. Excited to have you. So, how are you feeling today?
Hey, I'm just excited. I'm ready to go to share my story, and hopefully people will learn about the Hunter family, and also go out and purchase the book, and hopefully it will change their lives.
Oh my goodness, great. So, well, on Leading Ladies, what we like to do, we like to start off with some leading gentlemen questions. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get started. What is your morning routine?
Well, I'm always up about 5:30 in the morning. I'm always giving thanks to God first. That's the most important thing, and making sure that I'm praying for my four children, my granddaughter, family members, friends, even my enemies and haters, and also just making sure that I stay in prayer, and making sure that I'm constantly being humble and constantly being a giver to people in our society.
Okay, great answer. Now, what was the last book that you read besides your own?
Well, the last book that I read was by Rick Warren. Purpose Living Life is a very good book. It's just let you know that you have purpose. You have purpose. I am constantly reading that book at least about once a month, but it just lets me know that I have purpose, and I believe today that I have purpose, or I wouldn't be sitting here having a great interview with you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, so you like to read books. You look like a gentleman that likes good quotes. So I'm gonna ask you this question: what leading gentleman in the past had this quote? When you walk with someone, something unspoken happens. Either you match their pace or they match yours.
Which person said that?
Yes, what leading gentleman in the past said that?
Huh.
Huh?
I really don't know. If I had to guess, I would probably have to say either Martin Luther King, or it might have came from Barack Obama.
Nope, it was Sidney Poitier.
Cindy Portier, he just passed away a couple months ago.
Yes, yes. That that was one of his infamous quotes, and I live by that quote. I love that quote. So okay. So that's something that it seems like I thought you would know it, and I picked that quote because everything that I've read about you, it seems like your vision is aligned to what Sidney Poitier had said. So that's why I
Oh,
thought you
oh,
would get it.
no, most definitely. I love that quote myself,
Okay.
and I'm gonna look it up once this interview is over, and I'm going to study it. I'm going to put it in my spirit, and also in my subconscious mind.
Oh, well, good. Well, good. So now, Paul, I have a lot of look. I have a lot of questions. I'm just going to dive right in. So I know you are children. So I want to know growing up with all those kids in the household.
Well, it was crazy. So let me start off by saying that I give a lot of credit to my mom and also to my dad. My mom birthed 21 children. That's amazing right there. She birthed it by one man. She went out there in society, sleeping around with multiple men, and you know, she wasn't like that. So I give a lot of respect and credit to my mom and dad because they endure a lot of adversity when they came in this world. So just imagine being born in the 1930s and comparing it to today's society. So back then it was a little rough and tough, and it was a lot of adversity going on, but they were able to persevere. And a guy like me, I picture myself back in them days. I couldn't handle it. I was built for this moment. I wasn't built for that, for my parents' moment. So I give a lot of credit to my mom. She actually birthed 21 children. If you do the math, she stayed pregnant for 15 years and 9 months. So she's a winner. She won more Super Bowls than Joe Montana. She won more championship than Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan. She's really a champion. And so being raised in a family of 20 siblings, my mom and dad made sure that we got up in the morning, made sure that we prayed, made sure that we ate. They did the impossible because they had God on their side performing miracles. And in that Hunter household, especially on Sundays, we had to go to church. Mom and dad would get up at 6 in the morning and start preparing that Sunday meal. If you ever watched the movie Soul Food, every Sunday it was soul food in the Hunter house. We got together and we would get up at 6 a.m. in the morning. Mom and dad would start cooking, make sure that my siblings and me was in the kitchen as well, cooking that Sunday meal, that church meal, because after church, after the pastor get through sweating and preaching and teaching, he was coming over to somebody's house to eat. It wasn't going out to the restaurants like they do now, but the pastor made sure, the pastor made sure that he came over and ate meal with the Hunter family children. And so we had a great time in our home, even though it was a little bit rough, but we managed to get through some adversity in our lives.
So did you ever, because I know you're growing up, did you ever say, Mom? Did you ever ask that question? Why so many? Did you ask that question?
I never asked that question.
Oh.
The reason why I never asked that question because my mom used to always say to the people, whatever God bless her with children, that's how many children she's going to have, and she was going to raise us, and she was going to make sure that we were loved and make sure that we look out for each other. But I do have a brother that's a pastor, and he questioned that all the time, like, still to this day. He's probably 61 years old, and he still questioned that. He questioned why she had so many, children. That's too many children. And me, I don't want to question it because,
Okay.
God gave her that ability to birth 21 children, and I'm not going to question God. But you have to look at that we all came out healthy, strong, and beautiful.
Yeah, and then back then, because I know you were 70, if you were 19, I could imagine that your siblings were born in the 60s. So things were different. You didn't have and I'm going to touch the subject, Roe versus Wade at that point. So, if you got pregnant, you had to have the children back then. So that could have all wasn't like it was.
And also my parents was very into church, and
okay.
They did not. I would have to say they did not believe in abortion.
Okay.
And maybe because they were Christians, and they really was into the church, and so I thank God that my mother gave life to all of us. You know, there's no regrets of what I've been through, what my siblings been through, because it made us better men and women today in society.
Okay. So, what did your parents do for a living to take care?
My
Yes.
mom, my mom worked, my mom worked part time
Okay.
as a housekeeper, and my dad worked two factory jobs. He worked for Bell City in the morning, and then second shift he would work for Case Manufacturing. So
Okay.
my dad worked 16 hours a day, and then on the weekends he was home with us. He was home with us, and sometime on the weekends he would go out and have a good time with his friends and relatives.
Mm, okay. Currently, you have 17. There's 17 of 63 grandchildren and 87 great. Correct?
You are absolutely correct, and I'm gonna tell you this, and you cannot mess with me because I have a lot of siblings and I have a lot of nieces and nephews.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even going forward. If anybody named Hunter, because I could imagine in California they're related to you. So
Yeah.
87 great grandchildren. So I know going forward, I to a Hunter.
Well, I tell you what, we are spread out. We are in California, we are in Florida, we are in Minnesota, we are in Texas, we are in Tennessee, we are in Ohio, we are in New York. So
Y'all
we are
all
spread it
over.
out this country.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like now, know all of her grandchildren.
No,
That's
when
like
my mom was
okay,
alive, when my mom was alive, she
okay.
knew some of the grandchildren, and she really didn't know a lot of the great grandchildren. She really didn't
Oh,
know them.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Hmm.
okay, okay. Now, so this way, because it sounded like when your dad was around, control over you all, discipline, and far. But did things change for you and your siblings after?
Well, I have to go back to 1976. Things changed when we had this house fire, and before we had the house fire, my mother was pregnant with the 14th child. And so they was living in a two-bedroom home. And the sheriff
Okay,
department came knocking at the door, telling my parents that they had 72 hours to leave, which is 3 days. My mom
right.
and dad went to church, prayed about it. The next day, a man came knocking at the door to show my mom and dad an 18-bedroom house. He gave it to them just for $1. So my mom and dad did not have the dollar. The man went into his wallet and he gave my mom and dad that dollar. So he gave the house to my mom and dad for $1. And so
Wow.
in 1976, things changed because that house ended up catching on fire. And so
Mm,
my brother Michael at that time, he got everybody out, but he couldn't reach Thomas and me. So two firemen came in, retrieved me, and also retrieved my brother. But the fireman stated he has a weak pulse. I don't think he's going to make it. And he said, we have to get out of here. Fire was just everywhere. So
wow.
as we went downstairs, we made it to the kitchen. So my mom, she's from Vicksburg, Mississippi, born and raised in Vicksburg, Mississippi. So she had two garbage cans, one filled with flour, the other one filled with sugar to the max. So they empty out the contents, place me in one, and place my brother in one, and they ran and burst right through the window and rush us off to the hospital. So my brother died a couple of days later. So when you have death in the family, it's going to bring a lot of the blaming game. My mother used to blame my father because, my father was working, and my father used to blame her because he said that, she should not have been working. She should have been at home. So it was a lot of blaming going back and forth. And so a lot of strife in the family. But a year later, my father went back to Fayetteville, Mississippi to visit his mom. He had dinner with his mom, had a great time. Mom wanted him to stay in. He decided no, he wanted to go out and hang with his family members and also see some of his friends from high school. And that's when he was killed in a car crash. And that really changed our life. That's when we really began to struggle financially.
Wow. 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 Mm. Okay. So I need a minute. Wow.
Yes, yes.
Um. So it was just your mom, and then at that time, 20 kids that she had to raise. Imagine that you had other siblings to help with the younger siblings, right?
Yeah, and that's what they did. My older siblings, I give a
Okay.
lot of credit to them because they had to pitch in. A lot of them had to forego their education, but
Mm,
they had to pitch in and watch after us. So they did a good job. A lot of them were our substitute dad, especially my brothers, and some of my sisters were substitute moms. But they did
okay.
a tremendous job. So if you look at what they did with that second 10 unit, they did a great job because they were able to have kids and raise their kids, and their kids are all positive
Okay.
and productive in society.
Okay. Okay. So you grew up in the 70s. That old adage that it takes a village to raise a kid. Well, to raise a child, were available for you all in the community of.
Well, the community to me back then in the 70s and 80s is totally different from now because when we lived on a street called Randolph Street, everybody knew each other on the block. Not only on that block that we live, but the second block and the third block and the fourth block. And we all respected each other. We all played with each other children. And I remember a time when um, I got into it and I was use a foul derogatory language, a curse word. Mrs. Smith spanked me, and Mrs. Smith took me home and told my mama and daddy. And you know what my mama and daddy did? They whooped me again. So, you couldn't get away because everybody looked out for each other in that neighborhood. Not today. It's totally, totally
Yeah.
different. So, you know, the neighborhood moms, the neighborhood fathers, they had the privilege and the opportunity to whoop you if they saw you doing something wrong.
Wow. Yeah. So, because I know, but you couldn't try that now. Let you touch somebody's kid. You and the parents are fighting. Have you tried?
Oh, yeah, most
Yes.
definitely, most definitely,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also you would go to jail. You would go to jail for abuse,
Yeah.
child abuse.
So yeah, and then back then you didn't have as you have today because the neighborhood came together and helped with the kids, discipline the kids, like you said. Miss Smith would tear your butt up if she saw you doing something you had no business. So crime was less back then. Would you agree? Than now?
Oh, most definitely. Now we have crime is extremely high. Homelessness is extremely high, and it's sad to see this generation have faith in the government, and they think that, oh, it's all right to smoke weed because the government says it's all right to smoke weed. And I tell people today, do you know how many people went to jail, went to prison for selling weed,
Yeah,
and now they making profit off of
yeah,
it? So you need to do your
yeah,
history.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So now, so coming out, um, started a homeless shelter. Is that correct?
Most definitely. She started one of the first homeless shelters in the city of Racine, Wisconsin. I should say this, in the state of Wisconsin. For an African woman that did not have a high school diploma, she started one of the first homeless shelters in 1970. And do you know that I was in her womb 3 months? I was in her room, and that's when she started the homeless shelter, when she was 3 months pregnant with me. That shelter stayed active for 45 years. That's longevity. And
So what?
she, she did some tremendous, remarkable work in the community. She fed thousands of people, thousands of human beings. And I don't care if you were white, black, Hispanic, Japanese. She did not discriminate. She helped the less fortunate because somebody helped us. And the reason why she did that is she remembered when that guy went into his wallet and gave her that dollar and also gave her that house. My mom was grateful. My mom has always been humble ever since somebody shared kindness with her. And so she wanted to bestow kindness on the world in the city of Racine, Wisconsin.
Okay, so now shift. So I know I've read in other, because of that homeless shelter, your mom and yourself had a rocky relationship because that she spent more time in the community home with her own family. Is that correct?
Yes, most definitely. A lot of my brothers and sisters wanted my mom to be at home, um, and it brought in a lot of strife into the Hunter family because my mom used to always be at the shelter instead of at home. And when you are a child and you're a teenager, you know, you want to spend quality time with your parents, and you don't want to put a lot of burden on your older siblings. And
Yeah.
some of my older siblings did not like that at all because, like I stated earlier, they had to forego their education. Some of them did. And the ones that didn't were allowed to go to school functions, go to prom, go to festivities that the school had, and go to football games, basketball games. And so they wanted mom to basically be at home so they can go out and spend their time with their friends. You understand me? And so a lot of my sisters and brothers, including myself, I grew up with a lot of bitterness and resentment and anger because I was mad because my father died at a young age, and it bothered me when I used to see parents come up to the school and pick up their son, pick up their daughter, or see them at the park. I used to imagine, what it would be like if that was my father at a park, playing with me, taking me to football games, taking me to basketball game, teaching me how to, work on a car. And my older brothers had that opportunity with my father. I never had that opportunity, but my older brothers taught me how to fix a car, how to fix a bike, and I'm grateful for that. And now that I have my children, I did everything that my parents didn't do.
So you were
I
the
did everything that
opposite.
my parents. Yes, all of
Spend
my,
time with your
all of my,
children.
yeah, all of my siblings when they started to have children, they did the opposite. You know, you
Mm.
know, my mother grew up, like I said, in the 30s, Vicksburg, Mississippi, segregation, the Jim Crow era. So you I learned this about my parents, and not only my parents, but people that were raised back then. You can't give what you don't have. So she wasn't a loving person. So
Mm.
she couldn't give what she didn't have. But she was a mother. You know, my mother experienced a lot of hardship. She experienced seeing her cousin get raped by the KKK. So just imagine as a 11-year-old girl and you running from white racist men that's trying to kidnap you and rape you. What would that do to your mind? You know, it traumatized my mother. And my mother used to always say, I can't tell y'all some of the things that had happened in my childhood when I was living in Vicksburg, Mississippi. She said, I would rather take it to my grave. That's what my mother would say all the time. I would rather take it to my grave. And I thank God she did not tell us, because we probably couldn't handle it. Because even though she experienced some drama and it was traumatic, but that's my mother. And I wouldn't know how I would have reacted if she would have told me what happened in her past. So
Mm.
she took it to her grave. And thank God that she took it to her grave, because I believe some of my siblings probably would have went crazy.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle it.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So, what was the driving force? I know you said some of your siblings. What was the driving force for you to be the one to, regardless, I'm going to get my college degree?
I think that studying my family lineage on my mom's side and also on my father's side, and what I found out is that no one never graduated. They went to college but never graduated. So I took it upon myself to go to college, learn, surround myself with positive men and women, and use all the resources that were available at Gateway Technical College and Upper Iowa University. And one thing I learned about coming from the inner city, when you walk into any institution, there's only one direction you can go, and that's up. So I became the first to graduate from college in 2012 from Upper Iowa University. I have a um, bachelor's degree in business administration, and I am delighted that I laid the foundation, because a lot of my nieces read my book, No Love, No Charity: The Success of the 19th Child, and went back to college and graduated. And now a lot of them have their master's degree, and one just completed his PhD degree. So I am thrilled. I am happy, excited that they were able to see me cross the finish line and get motivated to go further.
That's great. So, what reasoning behind the name of your book?
Well, no
No,
love, no charity.
this
That's the
it.
the reason why the story behind No Love, No Charity: The Success of the 19th Child. I wanted to talk about my childhood life and how my mother started a homeless shelter, Love and Charity Homeless Shelter. And so I titled it No Love, No Charity, is because a lot of my siblings, even myself, we believe that she displayed a lot of love and charity to a lot of people in her community, but she did not display that love and charity to her own children. That's the reason why I made it a point to tell people that you can't give what you don't have. And
Yeah,
she did not have that for us.
yeah, yeah.
So, you know, we did not have the best relationship. You know, it was in 2016 when I had called my mom and I was on my lunch break. And I extended my lunch break because my mom didn't want to hang up the phone. And we had a great conversation. But, you know, my mom asked me for forgiveness. She asked me
Mm.
for forgiveness. And that was very powerful right there. Is that she asked me for forgiveness and she told me that she wasn't perfect. And she asked me to continue to call her at least about once or twice a week just to have a conversation. And that right there was important for me because no matter what had happened, I learned that the power of forgiveness is very important. You know, no matter what she did or what she said, she had that breath and opportunity to say, forgive me. That's important.
Mm. Yeah,
That
it's
to me,
deep.
that was important. hmm
So
It's,
that changed.
forgive me.
Yeah. So that
That
changed
changed,
your.
that changed, that changed my whole outlook. That changed my whole life. Because you know what? I'm not a perfect man. I have 4 children myself, and I tell my kids all the time. And I told my kids that in 2016, that was the first time that my mom ever told me that she loved me. Yeah.
Oh. Mm. Because I think sometimes when you forgive other person, but it's for yourself. Would you agree?
Yep.
It's for
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. And yeah. And, you know, I was mature. I'm older now. And I was ready to accept her forgiveness. But as a father, I learned that your parents are not perfect.
Yeah.
There's no perfect parent out there. Parents will make mistakes. And, you know, being a grandfather now, and my daughter realized that, hey, she's a parent now, and parents are not perfect. They will make mistakes. And I had the opportunity plenty of time to do something different with my kids because I tell my kids all the time that if they would have grew up in my era, they probably would have took themselves out. And
Wow.
I tell them that I was built for my era. And I
Mm-hmm.
said that that's the reason why when I converse or call my kids, it's important for me to say that I love you. It's very
Yeah.
important. You know, my mom never displayed that, but when she got old, she started to say, I love you. So when I talk to my kids, I tell them all the time I love them. When I see my kids, I give them a big hug. I still give them a kiss on the cheek, and because I wasn't loved as a child. I just wasn't. But I tell you what, I know how to love my children.
Mm. That's deep. That's good. Everything that you've been through, you were successful. So define in your own word what success is to you.
Well, I think in my words, success is just getting up in the morning, having the opportunity to pray, having the opportunity to go out in society and give back to society, share a positive story to give men and women hope. My degrees, my accolades does not define who I am as a person, but I want to continue to define success, like I said, is going out and speaking at the Boys and Girls Club, sharing a positive story of how I beat the odds. No one gave me a chance. No one gave me a chance. Everybody that you see, especially in Ebony Magazine, the Tom Joyner Show, um, Dr. Phil, Vivica A. Fox, a lot of those newspaper publications and television um, producers, they told me no. All of them told me no. All of them told me no. But what I learned is that God was dealing with me because he was basically saying, you have to be rejected in order for you to be successful. The ones that told me no came back and said yes later on.
Really?
So there's some things that, yeah, there's some things that I had to work on. And once I had worked on those things and I mature as a person, that's when doors starts to open up. And that's when hey, the phone call starting to come. All right, hey, let's get it done. Let's do it now. It's all about God's timing, and it's not about Paul Lamar Hunter's timing. And once I
Mm,
began to accept that, that's when things changed for me. I had to accept it, that it's not
okay.
my timing, it's his timing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so doors started opening up for you. So that now your book is a screenplay now. Is that correct?
Yes, it is a screenplay. Right now, I have partnered up with Tail Flick Production Company. They had did the marketing page pitch. They are in the process. They distributed out to different uh, production companies, and they are working on the negotiations. They working
For
on that and working on the movie deal. Yeah,
oh, that's
yeah.
exciting.
So I believe by the end of the year that we will close it out, and then we will meet. We will move forward.
Okay. Now, let me just go back a minute. So, when you came forward with writing the book and being transparent about your childhood, was this after your mom passed away? When you
No,
decided to
no, it
come
was
forward?
before. No, it was before. My mom was living when the book came out. My mom was she was alive when the book came out. The book came out in 2012, right
Okay.
after I graduated college. Right after I graduated college, and here it is, 2022, and the
Right.
book is still a hot commodity, and the book is
Okay.
still selling today. And
Okay.
it just surprises me that people are still intrigued with my story because, especially women, because they like, first thing that women do when they say, when they discover that my mom birthed 21 children, they, wow, I got one, I got two, I can't imagine trying to raise all them kids.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she has, yeah, then she has only one child to graduate from college. And I always tell them that it was part of my purpose. It was part of my purpose to be the first to lay the foundation. Somebody in the family has to be the first to lay the foundation. And I'm not being arrogant. I'm not being cocky, but I am being humble. I believe that God had used me to be the first, and there's nothing wrong with being the first because growing up in my life, and my sisters and brothers will testify that we have always been the last. And you know what the Bible says, that the last shall be first and the first shall be last.
Mm. Okay. So, volunteer with the Boys and Girls Club. Do you give back to any other organizations?
Yeah, big brothers and sisters. I go
Yeah.
over there, talk to the kids. The YMCA. I'm still volunteering over there, doing some basketball coaching over there. Getting ready for the fall season to go out and coach again and just have fun. I like to go out and volunteer at different organizations and make sure that I tell kids that there's nothing wrong with struggle. Frederick Douglass said it best that without struggle there's no progress. So you have to
Mm.
struggle in order for you to make progress. I struggle in academics when I was in grammar school, middle school, high school. I just got by. But then when I got into college, I didn't get by anymore. I just used the resources and I passed, and I was on the dean list. So I
Wow.
went from worst to first.
So you said you took business administration. So,
Yeah.
so were you working in business administration? What made you choose that versus something else, business? Because you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Is that why?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to be I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I decided to study business administration. I got my bachelor's of science in business administration, but I'm good at public relations, and so I'm good at communicating. I'm good at sending out press releases to different media outlets to get my story heard and told on a platform.
Wow. Powerhouse. What? A
Yeah.
Renaissance man.
Yes, 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 yes.
You consider yourself a Renaissance man, right?
Yes, most definitely. You know, when you look at all the publications that I have done, people are just taken aback. Like, I remember the having a conversation with Monica Jones, the young lady that did the Ebony Magazine article, and she came and she had spoke, and she was talking about that the editor at that time had gave her permission to go and do our story, the Hunter family story. She said there was a couple people that was editors was saying no one is interested in a woman having 21 children. Don't nobody want to hear about that. And so she said that the editor said, if you can go out and do it, go do it. And she went out and she did it. And she said, once the article came out, it changed all of their perspective. All of them was just changed by that article.
Yeah. Wow, I was in awe. Like,
yeah.
21 kids. I was like, what? Because I had two. But people used to say, how many kids do you have? I'd be like, a lot. Two. So just.
But they said, I was reading Women's Magazine, and the doctor was talking about that back in the old days, they used to say that it took 6 weeks for a woman to recover, and innovation has changed and said that once a woman has a child, it does not take 6 weeks for them to recover. It said it takes 18 months for their body to recover and get back to the same. I found that very interesting. So my mother never had a chance to recover until she stopped having babies.
Well, put it this way, your daddy loved her. Your daddy loved your mom. So your mom was loved. They were in love.
Hey, they both was loving on each other.
Because I think maybe after 3, your dad might have been like, hold on, baby, hold on. But he was like, come on, baby, let's. So there was a lot of loving going on. So, and I noticed that you said, and you made a point to say, well, my mom, all her kids were about one man. So you made a point to say that. So.
Yeah, I had to emphasize that because, when you're dealing with people in the media, they always ask questions, how many fathers in the family? And I say 1. And they like, what? They are really taken aback, And I have to tell them, I said, you got to understand that my mom was born in 1934. So that generation was totally, totally different from this generation, because this generation, they get married and then they see a new computer, meaning a new woman, they gonna, upgrade, get a divorce and upgrade. They don't stick it out through the bad times. You understand? They just want the good times all the time. But when bad times come, you gotta rock and roll with the bad times. And that's what my parents did. When bad times came, they stayed together. They glued. They was there.
Yeah. Well, where was your dad gonna go?
Did no woman want him? How many kids you got? Oh no.
like, where was he going to go? Yeah, he wasn't going nowhere. So, I want Paul because it was very interesting and reached out. I was like, wow. I was like, what does that look? I was intrigued. So, I mean, I know you're very busy, and I, want to kind of wrap up. But if there was a question, is there a question that you wish that I would have asked you?
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. You did. I think that you did a good job. I just want people to go to my website,
Okay.
paullamarhunter.com. Also, go out and purchase my book, No Love, No Charity: The Success of the 19th Child. I want your audience, listeners, to know that I am available for speaking engagements.
Mm.
I'm getting ready next month. I'm heading to Charleston, North Carolina. I'm speaking to an organization, Fathers to Fathers, and we are talking about fathers and how men can improve their relationship with their children, because children today, they need that male role model, and who can be a better role model? Your father.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we're live, and I know some of my family's looking, so yeah, your father can be a good role model. So, I can hear people now like, oh, she talking about a dad, but no, I think you're absolutely correct. Your father is an awesome role model, especially for girls, also. So, of in the household, and I say that to everyone. And I know that a single mother, and I could not teach my son how to be a man. So, I celebrate Father's Day, but I had to think about it when my son became a father. It was like, Mom, you that's not fair for you to say, oh, hey, for yourself, because it's like to be a father. So that's very important. I think it's very important for men to talk about that and spend time with their children. So that's very important.
Hmm.
So, let me ask you another question. Kind of wrapping up. Um, it's kind of like what leading gentleman from the past to have a cigar with? Like, who's your role model besides your
Right. Who I would have a cigar with? Well, I do not smoke, but if I did have a cigar with a person,
or scotch
uh,
or scotch or something?
I
Coffee.
don't drink. Never have. Never did coffee. None of that stuff. I'm a
Oh,
guy that I love to lift weights. I love to work out in the gym. But if I did, I would probably have to say um, Sidney Poitier, because I loved his movies. I loved his movies, and he was authentic. He was
yeah.
authentic, and he was real. He was real.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
what advice would you give to the future leading gentleman?
The best advice I can give them is to never give up. Always have a positive attitude and surround yourself with positive men and women that's going to elevate you, that's going to challenge you to be better. So that way you can leave a positive legacy for your children and your descendants.
Okay. So tell us where our listeners can find you online.
They can visit my website, paullamarhunter.com. I'm on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Paul Lamar Hunter. My name is Paul Lamar Hunter. And don't forget to go out and get my book, No Love, No Charity: The Success of the 19th Child. And I guarantee you, once you pick up that book, it will be very difficult for you to put it down.
And where could they purchase a book?
You can
Amazon.
go You can purchase the book at Amazon and BarnesandNobles.com.
Wow. Okay. And one last question. What is
Oh, my favorite podcast. Um, I would have to say Vivica A Fox, the
oh,
Fox
okay.
podcast. Yeah, because she always want me on her show. So we always chit chat and have a good conversation. Yeah.
Mm, real. I like Vivica. She keeps
Yeah.
it real.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Well, Paul, would like to thank you for being our leading gentleman this week. We hope that these conversations was enlightening to our audience as it was to us. So please come back and join us again in the future, in the near future. And I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. And please us on Facebook and Instagram at Leading Podcast, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel at Leading Ladies of the Past, Present, and Future for a recap of this live with Paul Lamar Hunter. Wait a minute. Why not?